Hi, I'm Skip Nipper. Welcome to Skip's Corner, the podcast where I tell you about not only Nashville's great baseball history and traditions,
shot to right, a one-hop liner,
but certainly about its past. And you will hear a little bit about its present and future, too.
Yes, he can, and makes the waist-high catch.
There are great stories about Tom Wilson Park, Herschel Greer Stadium, Sulphur Dell, and the players, coaches, and fans who love everything about baseball. And every once in a while, you will get to hear from a special guest who will share their fondness and even passion for the great game.
It's a high fly ball down the right field corner, going way back, hits a leadoff home run.
I know I've talked about Negro Leagues baseball history every chance I can get. From Tom Wilson, the father of Negro Leagues baseball in Nashville, and Clinton Butch McCord, who played a couple of years in the Negro Leagues before joining organized baseball. He played with the Baltimore Elite Giants. He played local baseball, too, and he played for the Chicago American Giants. And, of course, there's Norman Turkey Stearns, who was born in Nashville and was chosen to the National Baseball Hall of Fame for his Negro Leagues career. And there are others, including Henry Kimbro. Now, you can find previous podcasts on these subjects, and I hope you will. But at this time, I want to revisit Kimbro, and for good reason. And I'll tell you about the main reason towards the end of this podcast. His daughter, Dr. Harriet Kimbro Hamilton, who Butch McCord called Little Kimbro, we've been friends for several years, and her father's story is a worthy one to be repeated. First, let me give you a little background about her dad. He had a great career in the Negro Leagues, playing for the Washington Elite Giants in 1937, the Baltimore Elite Giants from 1938 to 1940, and then again from 1942 to 1951. He played for the New York Black Yankees in 1941 and the Birmingham Black Barons in 1952 and 53, and he also did some managing along the way. Now, that's an 18-year career, and it's pretty impressive, but even more so when you hear his stats and hear more about him. It was Kimbro's superlative defense that earned him the most attention. Possessing an above-average arm and incredible range, he routinely made catches deep in the power alleys that others had no shot at. And he said, "I was a pretty good fielder if the ball was hit in the air because I was fast." He was a stocky speedster who earned his living slap-hitting baseballs between third base and shortstop or into the outfield gaps. He served as the leadoff hitter for the Baltimore Elite Giants for 13 of his 18 seasons in the Negro Leagues. And not known for his power, his 5'8" and 175-pound frame could generate quite a punch when he chose to. This barrel-chested outfielder, who once claimed he didn't believe in that home run business, became the second man to hit a ball completely out of Briggs Stadium in Detroit in the mid-1940s. And you know who was the first? Ted Williams. Kimbro later described that blow when he said, "You know what size Briggs Stadium is? It's a mile high. I hit the ball out of the park over the right field roof." Well, he was so good, he started in 5 Negro Leagues East-West games from 1941 to 1947 and was a late substitute in another. And he added 3 more All-Star appearances in the 1950s. Although the Negro Leagues were waning, it was, since Jackie Robinson signed with the Brooklyn Dodgers, the Negro Leagues were losing their luster by the early 50s. Now, Henry Kimbro was born, his middle name was Allen. He was born on February the 10th, 1912 in Nashville, the 5th child born to Will and Sally Kimbro. His father was a groundskeeper at a cemetery and raised crops for Walden College. And his mother tended the children and took in laundry when the need arose. And young Henry attended school near home through the 6th grade, but the Black Junior High was a 10 to 12-mile trek to the other side of town, and that kept him from further schooling. So he took a job at a gas station where he worked into his early 20s, and he learned how to repair cars keep them running, and even gave them extra power. And he earned a reputation as a top-notch driver and was rumored to have run moonshine in West Tennessee. And during his baseball career, his knowledge of cars came in handy as he helped to repair the team buses and served as a backup driver. Following his retirement in 1953, he owned and operated a service station and a cab company in Nashville for 22 years. And a frequent attendee of Negro League reunions, he was inducted into yesterday's Negro League Baseball Players Wall of Fame in 1998. Now, Tom Wilson, who owned the Elite Giants, had an impact on Kimbro's baseball career and taught him life's lessons too. Wilson sponsored teams in Nashville for more than a decade when he became aware of Kimbro's talents on the amateur diamonds. And he approached the speedster about joining the Nashville Elite Giants, and at first, Kimbro turned him down. And then, in the fall of 1935, Kimbro joined a barnstorming team on a southern swing, and he must have enjoyed the pay-for-play lifestyle because he signed with Wilson's Elite Giants in 1936 and went with the team when it transferred to Columbus, Ohio. In 1937, the franchise shifted to Washington, D.C. and joined the Negro National League. In that fall, Kimbro joined a group of all-stars managed by Oscar Charleston. And the highlight of the squad's short tour was playing Satchel Paige's team at Yankee Stadium before 35,000 fans. Well, in 1938, Wilson moved the Elite Giants to Baltimore, and Kimbro became the leadoff hitter and center fielder. And in 1941, Wilson decided the Elite Giants needed a shakeup. So in April, he put together a two-part swap with the New York Black Yankees, and when all the dealing was done, the Black Yankees had Kimbro. Now, New York manager Tex Burnett tried to get Kimbro to drop his slap-hitting style and go for the long ball, and he even installed Kimbro in the third spot of the lineup, but the experiment did not last long, as Kimbro had a .300 average for the season and failed to get a single home run, and by June, he was back as the leadoff hitter. Now, Wilson made another deal with New York late in the season, this time returning Kimbro to Baltimore. In the next couple of winters, he stayed there and even worked on defense jobs, and his game kept improving, and his average was well over .300 by 1944. He duplicated his stats in 1945 and 1946, but the team never reached the championship. But in the winter of 1946, he played for Havana, and there he met Urbia de la Candida del Rosario Mendoza, who was a student at a Havana teachers' college. Now, neither spoke the other's language, but with friends and family acting as translators, they fell in love. And Kimbro followed the traditional Cuban rules on courtship. They were able to date only if escorted by chaperones, and often they simply sat together in the family home. He wooed the family with trips to the movies and chocolate. And after the 1947 season, he returned to Cuba and won the batting title with a .346 batting average. Now, it was initially reported that he earned a $1,000 bonus for his efforts, but that was lowered to $600 in later reports. And in addition to the title, he set an all-time Cuban winter mark with 104 base hits, was named an All-Star, and anchored Havana's championship team. But things were changing that year when Jackie Robinson and Larry Doby broke the Major League color barrier in '47. Kimbro got very little attention as a potential big leaguer. Sadly, but he had a reputation as a loner, and his age at 35 was working against him. He later returned to Cuba, where he led the team in walks, but patience at the plate was an integral part of his game. And after that season, Kimbro returned to the island to continue the courtship of Urbia, but he did not play baseball. Their daughter, Harriet, thinks he made only one trip a year until he finally earned permission to wed Urbia. Could be Urbia. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced that wrong, little Kimbro. He brought his fiancée back to Nashville, where they were married on September the 5th, 1952. And over the course of their marriage, the couple welcomed 2 daughters and a son and enjoyed their lives together in Nashville. and the children remember taking trips back to Cuba in the 1950s. Well, in 1949, the Elite Giants ran the table and defeated the Chicago American Giants to win the Negro American League Championship 4-0, and Kimbro was credited with a .332 batting average. Now, the Negro Leagues were winding down, but the 1950 Elite Giants were still going strong, and Kimbro, now at the age of 38, was still a force at leadoff and in the field, and on July the 17th, he added the title of manager to his resume when skipper Lenny Pearson was sold to Milwaukee of the American Associations. The Giants won the first game 5-4 over the Birmingham Black Barons, but finished behind the New York Cubans and missed the playoffs. And when the Elite Giants disbanded after the 1951 season, Kimbro moved to the Birmingham Black Barons and played for the team through 1953. By that time, the Negro Leagues had shrunk to 4 teams, and Kimbro was 41 years old. So he retired from baseball and took up family life as well as an arduous 7-days-a-week work schedule. After a few years as a cab driver, Kimbro purchased a gas station and eventually started Bill's Cab Company in Nashville. Both endeavors proved to be successful and provided the family with a steady income for over 2 decades. I know Harriet has told me that her dad, Henry Kimbro, admired Tom Wilson for his business sense, and I think Henry Kimbro had that too, because he was able to afford college for Larry at Tennessee State, Harriet at Fisk, Philip at Fisk, and Maria at Florida A&M. And she said, more importantly, Daddy taught us how to live, how to triumph over any odds, how to succeed. And after retirement, he often met with fellow Negro Leaguers at a Nashville sports shop called the Old Negro Leagues Sports Shop, and the loner image from his early days was a thing of the past. And when the National and American Leagues chose to honor the Negro Leagues at events during the 1990s, Kimbro was a frequent invitee, including an appearance at the 1993 All-Star Game at Camden Yards in Baltimore. And he was inducted posthumously in the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame in 2004. In his final years, he struggled with a heart condition, and after repeated hospitalizations in 1999, he opted to return home rather than to try experimental surgery. He died at his Nashville home on July the 11th, 1999, of congestive heart failure. And after funeral services at the Patterson Memorial United Methodist Church, he was laid to rest in Greenwood Cemetery, not far from where he grew up. Now, I could say a lot more about Henry Kimbro, but I'm going to stop there because I want you to hear what others have said about Henry Kimbro. One sports writer dubbed him the Black Ty Cobb. And Negro Leaguer Jimmy Dean recalled that Kimbro was a hard man to pitch to. He could hit. And Negro Leagues historian Todd Osborne from Dayton had this to say about Kimbro in a Facebook post. I've always felt that Henry Kimbro has never received the recognition and respect he truly deserves. He was a fantastic baseball player who hit well, had a great arm, and could steal bases with the best of them. He made 9 All-Star teams, won the Negro National League batting title in 1947, which turned out to be the batting title for all of baseball, and he hit over 309 times in his career. And upon the 87-year-old's passing on that July 11th of 1999, Larry Walker, owner of that old Negro League baseball shop, called Kimbro one of the greatest Negro League players that ever lived. And on a more personal level, his daughter, Harriet, offered even that higher praise when she said, Daddy taught us how to live, how to triumph over any odds, and how to succeed. That's quite a testament. When Major League Baseball decided to honor Negro League stats, elevating them to equal status, Henry Kimbro's batting average in 1947 of .385 became the highest of any player. And now here's what I talked about from the beginning. And this Saturday, August the 10th, the Nashville Sounds will be honoring Henry Kimbro by celebrating the Negro Baseball League star with special game activities and giving away a Henry Kimbro bobblehead to the first 1,000 fans to enter the ballpark at First Horizon Park. And that's a story about Henry Kimbro, family man and an all-star. Could Cooperstown be far behind?